Let's look at our limiting reactant exit ticket from Tuesday. Our balanced equation is going to be C2H4 plus 3O2 makes 2 carbon dioxide plus 2 water. Now the first question says, if I have 13.21 grams of C2H4 and 14.56 grams of oxygen, what is the limiting reactant? Remember, the numbers given to you in the problem, that is what you have. And in order to determine the limiting reactant, we want to start with the grams of one reactant and go to the grams of the other. It does not matter which one you start with, but this tells you how much you need of the reactant. So let's pretend that because the 13.21 grams of C2H4 was first, you started with that one. You would do a gram to gram of oxygen. And when you do that, you determine that you need 45.2 grams of oxygen. However, you only have 14.56 grams. So because what I have is less than I need, that means oxygen is the limiting reactant. Let's say you started with the other one. Let's say you started with the 14.56 grams of oxygen, and you did a gram to gram to the other reactant. Here you determined you needed 4.25 grams of C2H4. In this case, since I need 4.25, but I have 13.21 grams, I have more than I need, so C2H4 would be my excess. Now, you only need to do one of these, but I showed the work here for both of them, just in case you did it the other way. Let's look at the next problem. It says how many grams of carbon dioxide can be produced from the reaction. Once you determine your limiting reactant, you want to start all the problems with the half of the limiting reactant, which in this case is oxygen. And in order to find out how much product is produced, we're going to start with the grams we have of our limiting reactant and do a gram to gram of the products. And because it asks for carbon dioxide, we'll do a gram to gram of carbon dioxide, and here is the answer. You do not need to have the same number of significant figures as I do. If you rounded this to 13, that would be fine. If you rounded it to 13.4 grams, that's also okay. Now, let's figure out how much of my excess I used in the reaction. In order to do this type of problem, once again, I always want to now start with the grams of the limiting reactant that I have and go to the grams of the excess. So in this case, because limiting reactant is oxygen, I want to start with oxygen and go to C2H4. So here is that work, and I discovered it's 4.25 grams of C2H4. If we look back at the problem up here, some of you might have already done this work above. So if you started with the oxygen and went to the C2H4 in problem number 2, you don't need to redo that. You can either draw an arrow for me or just write 4.25 grams C2H4 or maybe say C number 2, something that indicates you recognize you already did this work. Why we want to know this is because at the end of the reaction, we want to know how much excess is left. And in order to do that, we will take our half of our excess from the problem, subtract our need of our excess that we just calculated, and that's going to tell us how much is left over. So that walks you through every type of limiting reactant problem you might see in this unit. This cheat sheet is posted on Schoology, and there's also a copy in the classroom if you'd like one.